Okay, in news today, Jesse Minter is now the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And I think that alone is enough to make you pause and say, okay, something big is going on in Baltimore. Because this is not a small hire. This is a statement. And I got to tell you, the first question that I think that's going to pop into everyone's mind is, what does this mean for Lamar Jackson? Is he safe? Or is Baltimore about to pivot entirely under a defensive-minded coach who came up through Michigan and then LA? There's already been rumblings about Baltimore possibly dumping off Lamar to the Raiders, of all places. But before I get into that, I want to talk about Minter for a second, because Jesse Minter is known as a defensive wizard. He is the kind of coach who sees angles and matchups that most of us can't even imagine. His background screams discipline, preparation, scheming. That's pretty exciting if you're a defense first team. And Baltimore always has kind of been and wanted to be, even when they weren't, a defense first team. But it also raises huge questions about Lamar Jackson because he is an offensive phenom. But I got to tell you, this last season didn't look that way. If I'm being totally honest, it looked like a lot of pouting out of Lamar. Playing, then not playing, playing, then not playing. I'm not saying it was all that. I'm not saying it was all attitude. But I mean, he was hurt, then he wasn't hurt. And then, you got Derrick Henry out there trying to do the most for Baltimore. But Lamar's game is about improvisation. It's about speed. He forces defenses to react to him. And so how does a defensive-minded head coach manage a quarterback like Lamar? Is he going to be encouraged to flourish? Or is this system slowly going to start to move in a more conservative direction? It's going to be pretty interesting because you got to think about what Minter brings to the table. He's been in the league long enough to see all the variations of defensive philosophy. And he's proven in both college and the NFL that he can get results. I mean, this guy knows how to craft a scheme that controls games. But here's the thing. Being a defensive genius doesn't always translate to managing a high-powered offense either. That's going to be the key story in Baltimore over the next year. Can Minter balance his defensive instincts with the explosive and sometimes chaotic talent that Lamar Jackson offers? And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think they're going to get rid of him. And I don't even know if it's going to be pressured by Minter. I just have a feeling. And that brings us to the roster itself, because the Ravens are not a team in need of a full rebuild. I mean, they're just not. But I will tell you that they are at a crossroads. Lamar Jackson is still incredibly talented. He has years left. But these whispers, the criticism, some of the reporting that came out of Baltimore about them being ready to double down or start thinking about life after him, I'm telling you, I mean, and now with Minter in, that conversation becomes even more urgent. Lamar Jackson was Harbaugh's guy. Make no mistake. And so we have to ask ourselves, if the offense struggles under a new system, under Minter's new system, that leans more conservative or defensive minded, then does Baltimore pull the trigger on a change of quarterback? Or is Minter going to find a way to adapt to his philosophy around Lamar? I think we also have to consider style and culture. Minter is coming from programs that value discipline, accountability, aggressive play calling on defense. Now that could instill a new identity in Baltimore. We might see a team that is tougher to score on, that dominates the line of scrimmage and that plays with a chip on their shoulder every snap. And I think Baltimore fans would absolutely love that. But what's that going to do to an offense that is designed for speed and trickery? Is Lamar going to get the green light from Minter to improvise? Or is he going to be asked to fit into a mold that slows him down? The other thing that I think is important and not to lose sight of is the optics of this hire. It's clear that Baltimore is sending a message that this isn't just about today. It's about building a team that has a clear identity. They want discipline. They want toughness. And they want consistency. And Minter has the credentials to provide that. But at the same time, the NFL is a results-driven league. And if the Ravens start to sputter, then the conversation about Lamar Jackson will heat up immediately. I mean, it's heating up now, frankly. But if they keep him and they don't deal him, and they have a repeat, I don't see how fans and media aren't going to start asking, what's Lamar Jackson still doing in Baltimore? Does he belong there? And guys, those are not easy questions to answer in public. It could be a very dramatic 2026. Now, if Minter is smart, and we have every reason to believe that he is, he will probably try to find a way to integrate Lamar into a system that maximizes his strengths. Because Lamar's talent is undeniable. I mean, his arm, his mobility, his ability to extend plays, all that exists still when he's healthy. But I think Minter will likely demand structure from him, smarter decision making. I don't think Jesse Minter is going to go for that stuff as much as Lamar Jackson has been accustomed to. And I think that's where we're going to get to see how adaptable both the coach and the quarterback are here, if Lamar stays. Now, if they can align, Baltimore could be very dangerous in 2026. But if not, we might want to be watching the start of a very public and high-stakes tug-of-war. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I think that's where Minter's fingerprints will be obvious almost immediately. I mean, we're talking pressure packages, disciplined backfield rotations. This could be a unit that makes life miserable for opposing offenses and quarterbacks. And that could allow the Ravens to control games even if the offense is finding his rhythm. And so where does that leave us? Well, we're in a season of questions in Baltimore. Will Lamar Jackson remain the face of this franchise? Will Minter's defensive philosophy coexist with Lamar's improvisational brilliance? Those are the storylines to watch in the coming months. And the answers will not define just this season, but the trajectory of the Ravens for the next several years, at least in my opinion. This is a turning point for Baltimore, for sure. And at the end of the day, this kind of news with Minter and the Ravens, it's one of those hires that does make you stop and pay attention a bit. I mean, it's bold. This is Jesse Minter's first gig as a head coach. We watched him here in Michigan as a defensive coordinator at the University of Michigan. Then he went on to LA. There's going to be some questions here with him as the head coach. But the biggest question of all is what happens with Lamar Jackson? And that's for sure going to dominate Baltimore headlines. Obviously, the potential upside here is massive, but the margin for error is razor thin. And that, my friends, is exactly what makes NFL coaching hires like this so fascinating. Keep it locked. You're listening to Midnight Sports Detroit.